There are two types of effective parenting strategies that we will talk about in this video lesson. But first, let's talk about what has been shown through research is not effective. Spanking doesn't work. Here's what the research says. Children who were spanked twice a month or more by age 3 were more aggressive than others by age 5. And children who were spanked more often responded with more bad behavior, which led to more spanking, resulting in a complex negative spiral. So not only is spanking not teaching better behavior and self-regulation skills, it is leading to more misbehavior and aggression. What's more, spanking can damage the relationship between you and your child, leading to greater behavioral difficulties and a poor relationship with you. Yelling and losing your temper doesn't work either. If your child is constantly misbehaving and you are constantly yelling, it will not make an impact. She will just decide that is how it is when mom or dad gets mad, and soon enough, she will stop paying attention or become even more defiant and angry. And finally, if you punish your child a lot, this will also be ineffective. If your child gets punished over and over, they are living a perpetual state of punishment. So he will think, what does it matter? I'm going to be punished anyway. So now let's talk about strategies that do work. We will provide proactive and reactive strategies that provide structure and clear instructions to your child with ADHD. This way, they will know what types of behaviors you are looking for. Proactive strategies manage problem behaviors before they start. You may be reluctant to apply proactive interventions because you will be the one that will have to make changes rather than your child. In the long run, by applying proactive strategies, both you and your children will benefit. Reactive strategies are applied after the behavior has occurred. The first proactive strategy that we are going to talk about is you will always need to keep in mind that your child has challenges with paying attention, communication, self-control, organization, and other areas. Adopting this perspective encourages you to be supportive, positive, and sensitive to their challenges. Get to know and understand the parts of ADHD that influence him the most. If you understand your child and their individual needs, then you know that your child has a common response to certain situations. You may want to adjust or change your response to help keep the waters calm at home. For example, if your child's ADHD symptoms cause her to be very inflexible when she is emotionally irritated, that may be a time for you to listen carefully and watch her facial expressions. Perhaps you see that she is angry and anxious. You may know that for your child, that if you try to solve the problem, it may make it worse and create more anger and frustration. So that may be a time to reshape your response and say very little, or just, or I see, or asking, what can I do to help? On the other hand, your child may be more responsive to conversation and is more flexible. You just need to try different ways of understanding their individual needs so that you can shape your response. Here are the principles. They have a legitimate medical condition that undermines their ability to regulate their behavior. So if you firmly believe that they have a legitimate medical condition, your response will reflect that. They have the same need or desire as other children to gain acceptance. They can improve their conduct with the assistance of effective parenting strategies and interventions. They should be expected to make gradual rather than rapid behavior progress. And finally, they will respond more favorable to supportive, positive discipline strategies. The second proactive strategy that we're going to talk about today is to perform daily routines and schedules. The transition from one activity to another is often difficult for a child with ADHD. So routines provide situational cues that support and encourage appropriate behavior and will help your child to transition to different activities. Schedules provide your child with a much-needed sense of control and reassurance that will minimize the unexpected to reduce the risk of frustrating your child. When you provide a predictable environment, your child will not need to rely solely on their personal judgment, memory, or problem-solving strategies until they're better able to execute those skills on their own. Be sure to keep routines simple. Here are some tools that will help you to create routines that are well-defined, specific, and frequently reinforced through visible modes of presentation. You will need to experiment with different tools to find what works best for your family. You may just need a couple of tools to help your child remember schedules, house rules, and routines. The first tools are apps, online calendars, note-taking services, and digital assistants. You can use technology to help get your child out of bed, develop healthy habits, stay organized, meet school deadlines, and get through daily routines. So, for example, if your child has a hard time getting ready and getting to school on time, an app like Happy Kids Timer can help. The app will guide your kids through their morning routine by prompting them to wake up, make their beds, or brush their teeth. Digital assistants and tools like Siri, Google Assistant, Google Home, and Amazon Echo can provide reminders and prompt to perform tasks or take breaks, set timers, make lists, and answer questions. This takes you out of the equation when having to remind and prompt your child to complete activities, and it increases compliance. So, for example, you can automate your child's after-school routine by having Alexa prompt your child to start their homework, take breaks, take out the trash, and then get ready for bed. The next tool that many parents find helpful is to use behavior or reward charts. Teachers also use this tool in the classroom, and you can work with your child's teacher to focus on a few specific behaviors that you would like to see your child improve on. Your child will learn about what behaviors are acceptable and not acceptable based on the consequences of them. So, if you want a child to do a behavior more often, a reward will help. For children in elementary through middle school, many but not all parents have found success using a token economy system. When you use this behavior reward system, you will choose up to 3 behaviors to address at one time. You will want to pick a behavior that your child is already doing well, one behavior that needs a little improvement, and one challenging behavior. And you will frame the desired behaviors positively. So, for example, instead of saying, "Don't hit your sister," create a goal like, "Keep your hands to yourself." You will then reward good behavior with a token. Many parents of children with ADHD find that this system is more successful if you break the day down into smaller chunks of time. This takes a little more time and effort, but if your child waits all day to earn a token, it can seem like too big of a goal, and many children will lose interest. Be sure to physically hand a token to your child whenever he earns one. This provides immediate reinforcement for a good behavior by giving your child a token for meeting his goals. You will also want to create an appealing reward menu with a variety of items and point values to keep it exciting, and have your child help you with coming up with the rewards. A good token economy system should get your child excited and help him stay motivated to do better. You will also want to keep in mind that it may take some time to see improvement, and if things aren't working, make some adjustments and try again before abandoning the system altogether. For middle schoolers and teens, behavior contracts work best. A behavior contract can help you and your child work on things like self-control or lying. It can also spell out rewards for meeting a goal and consequences for not meeting it. A good contract includes steps you and your child will take to change a behavior. So rather than just saying, "Stop doing X," you come up with strategies to replace inappropriate behaviors with better ones. For the contract to work, it's best to get your child's input. Helping shape the contract makes kids more likely to stick with it. Again, start by focusing on 1 or 2 behaviors. Having too many goals at once can be overwhelming. Work with your child to come up with goals, strategies, rewards, and consequences. Be sure to schedule a time to review it later. Use that time to talk about whether the contract needs to be changed or your child is having trouble meeting the goals. There are many examples of teen contracts that you can use online by just doing a Google search. The next tool is visual cues or reminders. Establish simple, non-intrusive visual cues if your child hates getting verbal cues and reminders, or they just don't work for your child. Using a visual cue can help with any transition, social interactions, choice making, on-task behavior, daily living skills, and increases compliance. You can use pictures to clarify procedures. For example, you can create a chart using just a picture and word and laminate it to provide your child with visual cues to perform daily activities. For teens, you can just simply place Post-it notes in a message center, or maybe on the bathroom mirror, or other places where they are sure to see it. Rather than telling your child to sit, be quiet, or stop, you can use laminated word or color code signs. Another way of using visual cues is to take pictures and post them in a visible location for your child. For example, parents can take a photo of their child's clean room and put the photo on the wall, or you can get even more in-depth by taking and posting a picture of an organized sock drawer, a school binder, or backpack as reference for your child. Using a list is another tool that you can use. Often, children with ADHD need larger tasks to be broken down into smaller tasks, so you can provide a list of steps to accomplish a task. For example, you can create a checklist for your child on what they need to pack into their backpack each day. Another tool that helps children with ADHD is a timer. Children with ADHD frequently lose track of time, so visual timers and digital reminders on your watch or phone assist in managing time. For some children, it creates anxiety. You will need to experiment to see if using a timer helps your child stay on task or if it actually makes it more difficult. The next proactive strategy that we're going to talk about is to organize the environment. When organizing the environment for a child with ADHD, some of the following tips may be obvious. However, when someone has ADHD, they have challenges with organization, and you should work with your child to find out what works best for them. Your child's input and buy-in to the strategies that you choose are very important. So let's talk about some tips. The first tip is to designate a home for every item. For a lot of children with ADHD, if an item that they are looking for is in a drawer or cabinet, it doesn't exist, and it can't be found. So this is where labels will help. Also, it will help them to be able to know where to put items when they are done with them. For example, you can put labels on dresser drawers so that they know where their shirts and socks go. The next tip is to create a checklist with your child and break down large organizational tasks into smaller steps. So, for example, you can create a checklist of what to pack in a backpack each day before going to bed. The next tip is to create a command center. Every family member can have their own assigned color and a launch and landing pad, which is basically a place to put their belongings that they will need to grab and go in the morning and drop off when they return home. You should take some time to clean out this area at least once a week because often it becomes a dumping ground for miscellaneous items that do not have a home. For inspiration and creative ideas, you can visit Pinterest and Google Images for ways to accommodate for your living space. The next tip is that you can set up toolboxes to hold similar items and supplies needed to complete a particular task. For example, homework, projects, arts and crafts, or cleaning. Each toolbox should be a mobile container that is clearly labeled. Ideas include baskets, tackle boxes, buckets, clear plastic containers, and carts on wheels. The toolboxes will save time because all of the supplies needed to complete a task will be in one place. You may wish to make a list of the toolboxes that you develop and the items in each one. You can save the list in your command center or on your computer, so you will easily remember where these items are. The next tip is to use timers while organizing and challenge your child to get a task completed within a certain amount of time to receive a reward. Again, keep in mind if your child has anxiety issues when it comes to timers, this may not work for you. The next tip is that you may wish to use open bins rather than drawers, and to provide hooks for easy access and cleanup. As mentioned earlier, if it's in a drawer without a label, oftentimes in their mind, it is lost and never to be found again. Your child may get frustrated looking for things over and over again, so this helps overcome that frustration. And finally, schedule cleanup as part of their routine and link room cleanup with rewards. The next proactive strategy that we're going to talk about is to establish house rules. House rules clarify rules, values, and behavioral expectations for the entire family. As a first step, you and your family need to work together and reach consensus when defining the rules. a set of house rules helps to guide your entire family according to your values and expectations. The rules should reflect what you're trying to teach your child. House rules can also be used to set expectations for behaviors that are non-negotiable. Be sure to keep it simple, or you will not stick to the rules. So here are some suggestions on how to form house rules. Hold a family meeting to brainstorm a list of potential house rules. Select 3 to 5 of the rules from the list that will be non-negotiable. Here are some examples. No hurting. Keep your hands and feet to yourself. No interrupting. Wait for your turn to speak. No yelling in the house. Use an inside voice when talking in the house. No climbing or jumping on the furniture. Sit on the couch or lie down on the bed. You will want to state the house rules in specific and objective language. Explain the rules to your child. Don't just post the rules. Include the consequences for breaking rules on the chart. Encourage appropriate behaviors through praise. Be sure to tell your child exactly what you liked and as soon as you see the behavior. And discourage inappropriate behaviors with loss of privileges or timeouts immediately after the rule has been broken. You may wish to target a rule each week to focus on until the family is familiar with all of the rules. Now we are going to talk about effective reactive strategies. The first one is loss of privileges. As children age out of timeouts, losing privilege is an appropriate consequence. That might mean not being allowed to use the family iPad for the rest of the day. The consequence should be logical. So, for example, if your son throws game pieces because he's mad at you, putting the game away for a while makes sense, but telling him no ice cream after dinner is less clear. A timeout gives both of you a break. Your child can calm down and you can catch your breath without resorting to spanking. These are most effective with kids up to late elementary school age. The standard recommendation is a minute for every year of your child's age, but that's not set in stone. If your daughter settles down right away, she may not need the entire 8 minutes. But if she keeps yelling at you from her timeout seat, you might choose to add on a couple of extra minutes. It is also essential to spend some time reflecting on how you'll respond to your child's negative behaviors when they arise, so you are less likely to react strongly at the moment. And finally, we're going to talk about positive reinforcement. For children with ADHD, there is a direct relationship between the motivation to complete an activity with the rewards that they get when they have completed the task. Positive reinforcement is the immediate feedback or praise given to someone so that they will repeat similar behaviors in the future. So you will want to keep your child's praise basket full. Positive reinforcement produces the changes and attitudes that will shape a child's behavior over the long term. Practice praising your child for the little things he accomplishes. Children with ADHD get a lot of negative and corrective feedback from their parents, teachers, and peers, which can be discouraging after a while. It's nice to even things out with comments showing you appreciate the efforts that he's making. For every time you tell your child to stop doing something, try to look for 3 additional ways you can balance that out with a positive. Instead of saying, "sit down in your chair," which is a directive, say, "wow, you sat down so quickly. Nice work. You have your listening ears on." As with all things related to parenting, pick your battles. The humming while your son does his homework might grate on you, but it's a small price if it helps him focus on his math problems. Here are some tips. Define the appropriate behavior while giving praise. Praise should be specific for the positive behavior displayed by the child. The comments should focus on what the child did right and should include exactly what part of the child's behavior was desirable. Rather than praising a child for not bothering his sister, for example, a parent should praise him for quietly playing a game with his sister. The next tip is to give praise immediately. The sooner that approval is given regarding appropriate behavior, the more likely the child will repeat it. The next tip is to vary the statements given as praise. The comments you use to praise appropriate behavior should vary. When children hear the same praise statement repeated over and over, it may lose its value. The next tip is to be consistent and sincere with praise. Appropriate behavior should receive consistent praise. Consistency among all of the adults in the household with respect to desired behavior is important in order to avoid confusion on the part of the child with ADHD. Similarly, children will notice when parents give insincere praise, and this insincerity will make praise less effective. It is important to keep in mind that the most effective parents focus their behavioral intervention strategies on praise rather than on punishment. Negative consequences may temporarily change behavior, but they rarely change attitudes and may increase the frequency and intensity of inappropriate behavior by rewarding misbehavior with attention. Moreover, punishment may only teach children what not to do. It does not provide children with the skills that they need to do what is expected. So here's what we learned today. Proactive strategies manage problem behaviors before they start, and reactive strategies are applied after the behavior has occurred. Remember, you will need to be consistent to see improvement in behavior and in your relationship with your child.